if I could go back and ask the question, I would ask this of my father. I was constantly beaten up and coming home bloody and bruised. Why did you never teach me how to fight?
Hi friends, you are about to go on a little roller coaster ride with me and Tim Gunn as we catch up to celebrate Really Famous's 6-year anniversary. So Tim was my very first guest and it was quite a talk. If you listened to it then, you probably have been waiting, like, where is the update to this interview? And if you didn't, I recommend going back. I put a link in today's description. We have a lot of updates for you. And we talk about a lot of the controversial and surprising things Tim talked about in the first episode. So Tim Gunn and I are about to catch up in New York City, and I'm happy to bring you along for the ride. All right, so I'm here with Tim Gunn, my very first Really Famous interview.
Aw, you flatter me, thank you.
I couldn't have picked somebody better than you to be my first interview. I mean, it wasn't our first interview, to be clear. We already had an interview before. For the New York Times.
For the New York Times. Doesn't get any better than that.
That's right.
Except it does when it's with you.
Oh, Tim. I always feel so much better after I see Tim. Like, it's a good boost for me emotionally.
And I feel the same way with you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And it does feel, I don't know about you, but for me, when I see you, I feel like it's been 2 minutes.
Oh, I feel the same way. Yeah.
Which is great.
I have to tell you, I was just in Boston. I've been working with Emerson College. And I ran into, or he ran into me, my best friend from elementary school, who I have not seen in 50-some years. I would never have known who he was. It was as though time stood still.
So he recognized you. He probably has been following you all these years and been like, this is my best friend, Tim Gunn.
Yeah.
But you hadn't talked to him?
No.
How weird.
And it was really wonderful. I was so thrilled to see him and his husband.
Do we want to shout out his name?
Greg Smith. I love you.
Hi, Greg. That's so great.
Yeah.
Have you been in touch with him since?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Even better yet. I love these like serendipitous moments.
I do too.
Where the people in your life. I just recently got in touch again with an old best friend of mine from, I guess, elementary school. We used to play teacher together. We were cheerleaders together. Sharon Velasquez. She's in Austria right now. But we communicate on WhatsApp and Instagram.
Ah, good.
I feel like, yeah. I mean, something about somebody who knew you then.
Yeah.
It's special.
It is special.
All right, so let's talk about, so since we last met, well, okay, I'll bring everybody up to speed. We have met since the last interview.
We have.
The last interview with Tim was the first of Really Famous, and that was in 2017. So, but they don't know what we've talked about since we've been together.
Oh, we've talked about so much. Oh my, how much time does everyone have?
Like, what have we talked about? What are some of the things? I'm going to think about
everything imaginable. Life, the world, media, politics, the state of New York, Schitt's Creek. Season 3 of Only Murders in the Building.
So Tim, I was watching season 1 of Only Murders in the Building, and for some reason it didn't click for me.
And it didn't for me at first either.
Right, and then we're having lunch at the Met, and you're like, oh, my favorite show right now is Only Murders in the Building. And I'm like, oh, I couldn't get into it. And you're like, try it again.
Because the same thing happened to me. I had, in fact, 2 false starts with the show.
And I tried it again, and it became my favorite show.
We're obsessed.
We're obsessed. All the news that comes out, we're like talking about it.
And we want to know everything about Meryl Streep's character in season 3 because we love Meryl Streep.
We do, we do. It's going to be a good season.
Meryl, don't Amy Schumer on us.
That's right. What was that appearance? It was like, bing, she's in, she's out.
I know.
I know. That was a little teaser.
You get up to get a cocktail and she's gone.
Right, exactly. Are you still drinking a Manhattan as your main cocktail? Of course. I remember you told me that when we did the Times.
Yeah, since September 11th.
Every night in Manhattan.
Yep.
Wonderful.
A celebration of this great city.
It is a great city. And so Tim has, can I say where you live? Like, not exactly where you live, but
no, sure.
Tim has this great place.
I do.
On the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's a corner apartment, or what do you call it?
Apartment.
An apartment. Okay, it's a corner apartment and it has these great windows. So some are this way and some are that way.
And there's a siren going by right now, which happens. It's New York.
So New York in all the best ways. And as you can probably see behind us, there are some amazing decorations here and just collectibles that you've gotten over the years from everywhere. And all your travels and all of your interests.
Absolutely. I'm a nester and I'm a collector. And I like things with history.
What is behind us right here? This obelisk.
This is an obelisk.
Obelisk.
Is it
in
obelisk? Crystal. Well, I say, you can say obelisk, obelisk.
No, I want to say
whatever.
It properly.
I don't know what's proper.
Okay, so what about this one?
Well, it has ancient lineage. If you think about ancient Egypt and especially the reign of Cleopatra, there were evidently dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of obelisks all over Alexandria, Egypt. And in fact, one of them is right in Central Park, and it's called Cleopatra's Needle, very appropriately. And its twin is in the Place Vendôme in Paris.
Okay, and then behind that, I don't know if everybody can see it or not. Can they see your Emmy back there?
Oh.
That is an Emmy, friends.
Thank you.
An Emmy for Project Runway.
And it weighs a ton.
It does.
Oh yeah, it's a great weapon if you choose to use it that way.
So if you ever hear somebody knocking at your door,
bring that Emmy and pound them with it.
Have you had people knocking at your door? I think we talked about this the first time or maybe the second time.
No, I mean, I hate to phrase it this way, but when you have when you're in an apartment building with a doorman, in some ways it's like a gated community. It really is.
There's a protective factor there.
I mean, they didn't call up for you because I said you were coming.
Oh, okay.
So they knew, just come up.
I did tell him on my way in.
Yeah.
I said, I'm here to see Tim Gunn.
And they
How cool is that? I'm like, I'm here to see Tim Gunn. And he said, yes, go on up, which was nice. Right, so you can tell them in advance, but it does feel like you have that layer of protection.
Oh, yeah.
But people do get a little weird, right? Some people do get, like, fans. Oh, I just see this. Sorry, I got distracted. Diana Vreeland. You share a birthday.
We do. July 29th. Yeah.
Okay, I got distracted.
I have lots of Vreeland books.
You do?
Yeah. And, you know, we're 50 years apart. She was born in 1903. I was born in 1953.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I love it. So, okay, so getting back to your Emmy. So Project Runway changed hands, back to the history, and now it's making the cut.
Yes.
So you had 3 seasons so far.
Yes, 3 wonderful seasons.
3 wonderful seasons, and if you haven't caught it, you can catch it now.
That's the great thing about streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, on Amazon Prime Video. Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
Please do. On Amazon Prime Video. So you can also buy the fashions that you see winning, which is really cool. And
if they're still available.
Oh, not still?
Well, seasons 1 and 2 are sold out. Season 3 may still be available. Yeah.
Try and you may succeed.
You know, but I don't understand. And Amazon Fashion, I hope you're listening. With the star pieces from seasons 1 and 2, and there are a lot, why don't they just go into production again? I mean, I'm thinking about Gary Graham's denim jacket. Just put it into production again. It's sold out twice.
Why don't they?
I don't know. And I bought it twice. One to give to a friend, and the other for me.
Oh, that's cool. So you have it right here?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
I remember from one of our first interviews, I asked you things like, so the first interview that I had with Tim was for the New York Times, and we talked about Tim's Sunday routine. So we talked about...
so much fun.
And I remember, do you remember it was mentioned, Al Roker mentioned it the next day on the Today Show.
What?
You!
No,
it was a Sunday
that.
routine. It ran on Sundays, and Sunday routine is a column in the New York Times that spotlights somebody living in New York and what they typically do on a Sunday. So Tim, we went through the whole routine, right?
Yeah.
And so the next day, I guess I must have had some alert on my phone or something, but on the Today Show, Al Roker brings it up and says, you were a guest, that's why.
I was?
Yes. You were on the Today Show.
I have no memory of this.
I'm sure, because I probably had an alert with you and you were up as a guest, because I think Al Roker said to you, we all read your piece in the New York Times, and everybody wants to know why you're doing push-ups in bed. Do you remember that? Does that ring a bell?
No. I guess I've had too many Manhattans. No, I don't remember that at all. Push-ups in bed?
Yeah, you said, or not push-ups, sorry, sit-ups.
Oh, the sit-ups. Yes, yes, yes. What? Why?
Why in bed? He wanted to know why you did them in bed.
Because it's nice and soft and squishy.
And that's what you said. But I remember it was a cool moment for me to be like, oh, look at that. Look, Tim Gunn is on the Today Show. And they're talking
because of you.
And they're talking about the thing that we did, which is super cool. I loved that.
It's funny, though. Someone else in a totally different context, and maybe a month later, said to me, the photograph of you walking through the park was backwards.
What does that mean? Oh!
And I said, no, of course not.
It was, you were leaving?
No, we were walking through the park with your wonderful New York Times photographer and I, and he took a photo of me walking along a little lane going towards the reservoir, and this particular person said that the photograph was printed backwards, and I said, that's ridiculous. And then I went back to the article and I thought, oh, they're right. It was because I was going downhill, or it looked like I was. I should have been going up, or it wasn't, doesn't matter, up or down, it's the same thing. It's which direction, and I was going up to the right. It should have been, this is so tedious, people, I'm so sorry. It should have been up to the left. But at any rate, you're all part of it now.
But you know, it reminds me of Only Murders. You know why? I'll tell you, I have to bring it up again. So Only Murders in the Building, there was this one episode in season, I want to say 2.
Uh-oh.
And they were going to Queens.
Oh, that's season 1.
That's season 1?
They're going across the Transverse in Central Park.
Yes.
They're going the wrong way.
Exactly.
Yes.
They're going the wrong way.
They're going the wrong way.
In the words of, did you see Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
Oh, of course.
So, do you remember we're getting so off track, but one thing leads to another.
We love getting off track.
I know. So, in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, they're going in the wrong direction on a highway. And some car says to them, you know, John Candy's driving, and some car going in the other direction is like, you're going the wrong way. And he's like, how does he know where we're going? But they were basically going southbound on a northbound,
yes,
or vice versa. But yes, they were going the wrong way. And I'm shouting at the TV, as you and I both do, at Only Murders. And I'm saying, they're going to New Jersey, not to Queens.
Right.
They were driving to New Jersey.
And they should have been on the West Side Highway, not on the 86th Street Transverse,
exactly,
going to the east side. It was too ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or it was vice versa. It was supposed to be going to, whatever it was. It was
no,
the
they
wrong
were
way.
going to New Jersey.
New Jersey, but
then
really,
they got the call,
yes,
and realized that they needed to go to Queens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. So similarly, so you had that on the New York Times picture. I'd never heard that. I didn't know that.
And talk about trivia. I mean, really? This is an issue? I don't think so.
So weird. All right, so we could get caught up talking about TV, but I want to ask you some bigger questions.
Please.
Okay, so what is, since we last caught up, or since our listeners, because when we first talked, it was a
6 years ago.
6 years ago.
Wow. It
was a podcast only. I didn't have video back then, and as everybody probably knows now, there's video as well.
Which is scary.
It's a little more, but people like to see you.
And I asked her whether I should be wearing a tie, and she said no.
He looks fabulous no matter what he wears. I mean, he always looks so put together. And in fact, we're getting off track again, but I saw...
But we love getting off track.
I know. On Instagram, you had a photo of you in jeans.
I did.
Somebody posted a photo of you. I think I don't know if somebody reposted you or you... I'm not sure what, but somebody had a picture. I have to pull it up. You looked fabulous in jeans,
well,
too.
Well, thank you.
You looked so put together.
Denim. I do.
Can we go back to one of the things that you said, which was like how people dress at airports?
Oh, please. Yes.
Has anything changed?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I haven't been in an airport since the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's been 3 years.
How does that feel?
Fantastic.
Really?
No complaints. Yeah. Last time I was in an airport was August 2019.
But you did film Making the Cut, but there wasn't a formal airport involved?
All right, I'm going to be perfectly candid here. I was so concerned with getting COVID and knowing that the plane has to land, I have to run and start taping immediately. And if I'm sick, if I have COVID, the whole production shuts down. So Amazon didn't pay for this, but Big Daddy did. I flew private. And I will tell you this, if you haven't, don't.
Don't.
And if you have, how can you fly any other way? It's the most incredible experience in the world. The pilots came back and said, this should be fairly quick. We can probably do this in 4.5 or 5 hours. I said, 4.5 or 5 hours? Take your time. Let's go around the world a couple of times. This is absolutely, unbelievably fantastic. And boy, was it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Don't experience it because you'll never go back.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, really, I don't have the adequate words. So anyone who's casual about it, like, oh, it's nothing. Yes, it is. It's a huge, big effing deal. That is just, I've never felt more spoiled.
So you'll have a personal assistant with you on Making the Cut next time, who's going to fly with you privately, and we'll get your coffee, your Manhattan, whatever you happen to need.
But that means Ashley Hawking, who's been doing it for the last 2 seasons, won't be doing. No, it'll be you and me and Ashley.
Okay,
You'll love Ashley.
I don't want to take Ashley's job.
No, but you'll just come along as.
Fun. Oh, guess what? So that reminds me. So this is a little off track also because we love to do that. But so I'm now offering my skill set on set.
Oh.
As a sort of like a wellness mood booster, somebody, a confidant, somebody who you can talk to on set,
How nice.
Work through your things, whatever's going on.
This world needs you.
So, you know, everybody could use a person.
Yeah.
Privately.
Oh, absolutely.
To talk about whatever they need to.
But my big concern is the people who need you the most are the people who are in denial. Who think, I don't need anyone.
But you know
I
what?
don't need Cara.
Even those people can just have me to hang out with, and they will hopefully feel better, even if they don't, even if they're in denial.
You know, that's true. And I have to say, you have a charisma about you that just makes people want to be with you. And you really do. And it's a special gift.
Thank you.
It's true.
I appreciate that a lot, especially coming from you. Because you have that gift.
Well, no, I really don't. Because I'd rather just go hide in the bathroom.
And I'll be the one knocking on the door, like, Tim, let's hang out in the bathroom.
Well, I would let you hang out with me in the bathroom. I just wouldn't want to hang out with a whole group of other people. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so private plane, we need to. You need
but
not
experience something else,
it.
and
Okay.
Actually, it's not a nice thing to say.
Well, say it anyway.
I was about to say the only nice thing I would ever say about Donald Trump, but it's really not nice. When Donald Trump was president, he made flying private a tax write-off. Can you believe that? If you can afford a private plane, you don't need to write it off. You just don't. And I felt repugnant doing it, but my accountant said, why? It's perfectly legal.
It's an expense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was. You were going to work.
Well, that's true, but still, before Trump, it wasn't a write-off because you're going to work.
Oh.
It was just
a write-off.
Well, it wasn't a write-off at all.
Oh, okay. Oh, he made it a write-off?
Yeah.
Oh.
He made it a write-off.
Okay, this is bringing me back to David Rose in Schitt's Creek.
Oh, tell me how.
Because remember that episode where he was like, it's a write-off. He started his own business, the apothecary. I think it was the apothecary he started. And then he started buying all these things, new sheets for the motel room.
Oh, right.
And he kept saying to, what's his father's name again? I forgot. David's father. You know, Eugene Levy. He kept saying, It's a write-off. It's like he didn't understand the concept of a write-off. He thought a write-off meant he doesn't have to pay for it.
Right. And that's not the case.
Not the case.
Johnny Rose.
Johnny Rose.
Yeah.
Johnny Rose was like, David.
You have to pay for it.
Right. You don't understand what a write-off means. Which is so funny. Okay, back to my big questions. So since our first really famous interview, what big changes have you had, or what are some up moments, some high moments you've had, and some low moments?
Well, high, making the cut on Amazon. I mean, I have to say, and these are not idle words or simply meant to be flattering words. The Amazon people are extraordinary. I've never worked with such smart, intuitive, just lovely, capable people. I mean, they're really extraordinary, and they're a well-oiled machine, and they work together well. And they've really spoiled me for working with anyone else. Yeah, I don't have the adequate words to express how truly fantastic they all are, and they are. And making the cut season 1, because we had this huge, luxurious budget, we went around the world. I never expect to experience anything like that again, ever. And I'm just hugely grateful that I was able to. Really hugely grateful. On the lows, I'm trying to be delicate about this. The move of Project Runway from Lifetime back to Bravo, and I won't get into any of the details of it because you don't need to know, and I don't want to relive it, but it was a real kick in the teeth.
Do we want to like put a bullet point there, or like I mentioned something that it might have been related to? Like one summary statement?
Well, the circumstances were such that Heidi and I agreed, and we were on the phone every day, a couple of times a day for the entire week that this transfer of the show occurred. We agreed we could not work with these terms and conditions. And we weren't just resigned, we just said to each other, we'd rather do nothing and then do the show on Bravo. And that's when we put our heads together and contacted Sarah Ray, who had been the showrunner for Project Runway for 10 seasons and whom we love and adore. And we said, okay, let's collaborate on the show that we've been talking about for season after season after season that no one would let us do, because when you have a big success, no one wants to change anything. And the show that we wanted to do was this higher end, larger concept of really branding, not just, it wasn't just about making a pretty dress. And we decided to shop it. And we did. And we landed at Amazon and couldn't be happier.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a good thing going there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a low that turned into a high.
It was a low that was meant to be. You know, you never know. It's what you were saying earlier about life's serendipitous path.
Yes.
You never know where it may take you. And of course, I think a low for all of us over the last number of years has been the pandemic. Has been COVID. I mean, talk about turning the world topsy-turvy.
But even since we last met in the last year, there are different phases of it. And
Oh, yeah.
I think things feel so different even than they did a year ago. I just want to bring back to Project Runway for a second, because I don't know if we ever talked about this, but on our first talk, you opened up a lot about or I think it was our second talk, but it was the first really famous talk. You opened up a lot about how you felt about the judges.
Oh.
So people
got in a lot of trouble.
If you haven't heard it, you should listen to it. I'll put the link down below. But it was, I mean, you were very open about the judges. I think people were very surprised that you felt that way. They would never think that you weren't a big, happy family.
Oh, we weren't. But I have to say, there's been an about face with making the cut, and it has nothing to do with the quality of the judges, It has to do with the quality of inquiry between the judges and the designers. Because we're exploring a conversation that isn't just about the dress or the garment. It's about how this fits into the larger rubric of their brand concept, the customer. So it's a deeper dive into who the designer is, and I have never once disagreed with the judges in any of their decisions because it is a deeper dive. When it's just about the dress, oh, come on, people. You can't see that janky hem? I do. Why are you ignoring it? Making the Cut was meant to be, and Project Runway was meant to be at the time that it was conceived. And I just believe it ran out of steam, in a manner of speaking, and it became not as relevant as it was. And Making the Cut couldn't be more relevant.
Okay, that's very interesting.
But yeah, I disagree with the judges all the time.
Right. Plus, now with Amazon, it's more of a business. There's a whole business background to
which
everything.
is what it should be.
Yeah, which is more interesting. Also, it's a little bit more dynamic, more layered than just the dress, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you don't miss being on Project Runway at all?
Oh no. I mean, I'm thrilled with Runway, and I feel so lucky to have had it for 16 seasons. But given a choice between Project Runway and Making the Cut, I mean, I couldn't possibly go back.
Yeah.
No, it's not the same.
Right. Okay.
And even as a mentor in the design studio, I'd be bringing all my Making the Cut thinking to this, which was never a relevant part of the Project Runway dialogue. You know, the brand. I mean, the customer certainly in a way, but the whole retail environment and merchandising, visual merchandising, it just was a non sequitur in that context.
Right. Okay, non sequitur. Now, segue. Gifts. We talked about gifts.
What did we talk about?
You said you don't like getting gifts.
Oh, I don't. No.
So still the same. What do you do with the gift that you get now?
I don't open it. Still?
Remember you had the one on top of your fridge in the old place.
Yeah. Yeah, in Chelsea.
And then it stayed so long.
It ate through the paint on the top of the fridge.
You can hear that whole story.
It was some perishables, and I didn't know because I didn't open it.
Right, so I'll tell you a little secret. That when I see Tim, I know I must not give him a gift of any kind.
But you are the gift.
Well, I appreciate that. But at the same time, I want to come with something, or sometimes I want to give you something because it's
beautiful
you.
Sauvignon Blanc.
So all I brought today. So today I've been like, I want to bring, because I know that when we had lunch at the Met, we had white wine, we had Sauvignon Blanc. So I thought I'm just going to bring a beverage today. It's not going to be a gift, but I'm going to have to disclaim it and tell Tim when I come, this is not a gift. It's just a beverage.
And you were lovely to say that and do that.
Thank you. Then I also foisted a gift upon you another time, which wasn't a gift, but I explained it in my note. I dropped it off with your doorman once, which was a really famous mug.
Oh, yeah, which I use all the time.
I made it clear, Tim, this is not a gift. It's just something that you would pour coffee into.
That was so effective that I opened it immediately.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, good. Because, I'm torn. I'm like, do I give you? But I want you to have a mug.
No, but that was the perfect way of introducing it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Because I'm like, I want you to have a mug, but I don't want you to feel like, oh, a gift.
I have things that I've not opened for years.
You still do here? We should go through them and see what they...
No, it's not. Did I tell you what I used to do when I was at Parsons?
Yeah. Wait, tell me again.
Well, I don't think it was Christmas, but I would choose an occasion when all these unopened gifts would come out, and we'd meet as a group of staff, and I'd say, just pick one and open it. And unfortunately, for a lot of people in that room, there were gifts that they'd given me. Well, you can keep it and re-gift it to yourself, or you can re-gift it to each other. But also, truly, I am so lucky to have so much. I don't really need anything. But I really have a disdain for, and my publicist knows this, is just free stuff from companies.
Oh, like swag?
Yeah, and absolutely not. It goes back. and CC and Taylor know just to say no.
So they send you things to their office, to the.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And no.
So when they send swag, do they want you to like post about it, or?
Well, I mean, ostensibly there are no strings attached. There are always strings attached. At one of the Oscars, and I'm not getting an Oscar, I'm just doing reportage on the red carpet. I was invited to the swag room and I said, no, I'm not going. And I was hounded. Just come for a minute, someone wants to say hello. Well, that wasn't true. They wanted me to hold a product and they wanted to take photographs. And I just said, absolutely not, I'm out of here.
That's tricky.
Yeah.
I mean, they were tricking you.
Yeah. Oh, it happens all the time. The lying deceptive shell game of swag rooms.
What are some of the lessons you've learned in the entertainment, being in the entertainment business for this many years?
To put some holds on your enthusiasm and your sense of being flattered when people come to you with things, saying, oh, we'd so love to have you do this. I'm now cautious, well, what is it? And what are your expectations? Oh, we just want 40 or 50 social media blurbs about this. Yeah. You know, a couple of videos, 40 pictures. Absolutely not. It's not happening.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And what about people generally in the entertainment industry? Good, bad, mixed bag?
It's the whole gamut, from the sublime to the ridiculous. It's the whole gamut. I mean, just like life. Yeah, no different.
You don't have to name the ridiculous unless you want to. Do you want to name some of the ridiculous ones?
Well, some people know. I mean, the Harvey Weinsteins of this world, please. I think people are surprised when they hear that I had a fairly, certainly intimate's not the word, but I had a close relationship with Harvey. I understand why he's in jail.
You told me some stories that everybody would be fascinated by. You don't have to share them all here, but basically, can we just summarize it a little, or maybe you share a little? Unless you don't want to, but I feel like you're fine with it.
Well, I'll share an example. When Project Runway was leaving Bravo and going to Lifetime, Harvey was very intent upon the talent people signing on to this new contract. And I have a fantastic agent, Jonathan Swayden, and a fantastic lawyer, Eric Weisler. And I trust them more than I trust myself. And they were both sitting with the contract. And Harvey was desperate for me to sign it and insisted that I sign it right then and there in front of him. I said, you know my agent and lawyer have this, and when they give me the okay, I will. No, do it now. And I said, I can't, and I won't. And he said, I'll have you know, I drove up Heidi Klum's driveway. I knocked on her door. She welcomed me in. I sat in her living room with her, and she signed the contracts right in front of me. I said, well, bully for Heidi. So a week later, I saw Heidi at the Emmys, and I said, I can't believe you let that man into your house. And she said, who? I said, Harvey Weinstein. What? He's never been in my house. So I told her the story. She said, absolutely false. That never happened. I still haven't signed the contracts because my agent and lawyer haven't told me that I could. So you come up against this stuff all the time.
So yeah, so people are deceitful. He's the ultimate example.
Yeah.
But Tim is also the ultimate example of somebody who stands up for himself and for other people too. You're constantly doing that as well. It's not just for you, but that should be said too, or noted, which I'm sure everybody would assume. But
you want me to tell the the other story?
Of course.
Okay. Project Runway. I was never intended to be on camera. I was a consultant to the show, unpaid, which is fine. Don't want people to think that there's something venal happening.
But unpaid, though, that's interesting.
Yeah, well, I was unpaid as talent for the first 2 seasons.
Say that again.
I was unpaid as talent for the first 2 seasons. So I was an unpaid consultant. I'm reading the contract between Miramax, that was before it became the Weinstein Company because they sold it to Disney and whatever. So I'm reading the contract between Miramax and the designers and the designer, and it said that Miramax would own the intellectual property of the designers in perpetuity. And I said...
Like all the intellectual, or just what they made on the show?
What they made on the show.
Okay, okay.
So I asked, is this negotiable? And I was told no. And I said that I'm out of here. Not only am I out of here, I will tell anyone who wants to be on this show not to be on the show because of this intellectual property issue. So I left. About a week later, Miramax got back to me and they said, we revised the contract. Now, this is my early naive days. I failed to ask how. Have you revised it? I just made the assumption correctly that they removed that condition. So we do season 1. I'm with Jay McCarroll, the season 1 winner, at the Oyster Bar at Grand Central Station here in New York, going through his winning contract. And we have 2 copies. We're going through it simultaneously, and we both reach page 11 and look up at each other with wide eyes, saying, and I look at him and I say, you can't sign this. He said, I won't sign it, because it said that whatever Jay McCarroll earned from that point forever, 15% would go to Miramax. 15% of his design work, his teaching work. If he worked at McDonald's, it would be 15% forever. So it ended up being a huge humiliation for Miramax to have the winner of the show turn down the winning. But he did, and I was proud of him. So they lied. What's with these people who just lie to your face?
Yeah, I don't understand that. To me, like, I don't even understand lying. Like,
I don't either.
even understand it. Life is so much easier when you just say what's true.
When you lie, you have to remember what you said.
Right, it's more
when
work.
you tell the truth, it's the truth.
It's the truth. It always stays with you. You're not going to forget it.
When Project Runway became a success, my mother said to me, you know, I don't understand why you haven't lied about your age and dyed your hair.
Please. Well, you wouldn't need to do anything
You know what
like
I found
that.
out? My mother had been lying about my age. She was making me 3 years younger than I actually am.
Oh, get out of here. Your mother was lying about your age?
So she wanted me to usher in a corresponding lie. I'm not doing it.
Why did she want you to be younger?
She
thought you would have a better shot in Hollywood?
I have no idea. She's the one who kept saying to me, this is your 15 minutes of fame, and it's counting. But it went on and on and on.
So why do you think she said that?
I think it was her own ego and her own buoying up of sorts, that she wanted me to look younger and, in fact, be younger as a reflection of her.
Right, because of her age.
Yeah.
So maybe she wanted to be a little younger?
Oh, I think so, yeah. But don't put that on me.
Right. How was she as a mother?
All right, I'll give you an anecdote.
Okay.
I was on, I will proudly say, 2 episodes of How I Met Your Mother. In both cases playing Neil Patrick Harris's Taylor.
Yeah.
And in the first episode, Neil has torn a suit, and I'm brought in to fix it. And I can't. It's just beyond repair. And I have to tell Neil this. And his response is to lean into me and cry. And I'm patting him and consoling, and Pamela Friedman, the director, I love Pamela. She's the best. Pamela came to me and she said, you know, this is funny, but can you just do it as a piece of ice? Just don't react to him at all.
Okay.
And I said, sure, I'll channel my mother.
That says it all.
That says it all.
Wow. She's part of why you, not part of, you came.
Oh,
the
no,
reason you are who
I
you
wouldn't change
are.
her.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
But see, it just shows you
Yeah.
what can happen. Again, I don't know. A piece of ice is something.
Sure, I'm channeling my mother.
Yeah, yeah. But
So-
you came from a piece of ice is what you're saying.
So Neil said to me, oh, so your father did all the was responsible for all the
Right.
affection and the giving? And I said, no.
No. Now, your father had quite an interesting history too,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You talked in depth to Terry Gross about this.
I did, yeah.
I remember listening to it.
My father was an FBI agent for 26 years, and other than 2 years in the field in Newark, New Jersey, of all places, he was at the headquarters. And his talent in writing captured the attention of J. Edgar Hoover, who was the director for under 5 presidents. Or maybe I should say over 5 presidents.
Right.
And he ended up being Hoover's right hand and took care of all of his correspondence and wrote his books and did all of his speeches and traveled with him. Yeah. I was very proud of Dad.
So you didn't see him much.
No. But I knew what he was doing.
But you knew what he was up to all along.
Yeah.
So he wasn't like effusive or like very affectionate or whatever
No.
with you, but it wasn't really an issue for you. Or
Oh,
was
sure
it?
it was.
It was.
I mean, I have to say this. God, you're better than a psychiatrist, Cara. So the one thing I've never figured out, and if I could go back and ask the question, I would ask this of my father. I was constantly beaten up and coming home bloody and bruised. Why did you never teach me how to fight? I'd like to know. Perhaps he offered and I resisted. I don't remember. But I'd like to revisit the issue.
So how old were you when you were coming back like that?
Elementary school.
Okay, so what was that about?
I was a classic nerd. I was non-athletic. I hated team sports, but you know, we had to do them.
Uh-huh.
And I was rife for being picked on, and I was.
So they
But
did,
also, not unlike my mother being the iceberg, these things make us who we are. I wouldn't change anything.
absolutely. I mean, if only you knew that then,
Yeah.
you had your perspective.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
it would have helped you get through those times,
Yeah.
but they were not easy. So you would come home like that, and then how would they, do you remember how they would handle it?
Oh, my father wasn't home from work and wouldn't be for hours. And my mother would take a wet washcloth and clean me up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd cry and go to my room, which I loved, with my books and my Legos.
And you're surrounded by books, not Legos, but books and some models of things,
You know,
which is interesting.
I was reprimanded with some frequency for playing with my sister's dollhouses, which I loved. And when she would get things like Barbie's Dream House or Barbie's Theater, I loved putting it together for her, or for me, I should say. And I'm confident that these models, and I have many of them, they're by Timothy Richards in Bath in England. It's my adult version of a dollhouse. Isn't that gorgeous?
It's gorgeous, and it's so detailed.
Yeah.
And it just makes you feel good.
Yeah.
But it is, I'm sure, a reflection of that. Like your place feels like your room, like you're describing your room.
These models are all over the apartment.
So you would, your mother would soothe you, you would soothe yourself.
Yeah.
You learned how to soothe yourself. And your father was kind of not there.
Yeah.
But he knew what was happening.
And he worked late. Mm-hmm. My mother and sister and I always had dinner together. And then Dad would have dinner when he got home.
Uh-huh.
So we didn't even eat with him.
Right.
Yeah.
But he knew, your mother would maybe tell him what happened.
Yeah.
But you're assuming, so I'm wondering, because you're wondering why he didn't teach you to fight. So are you sure he knew, or do you know what he thought of everything?
I'm not certain that he didn't try to teach me. I just want to revisit it, because I don't remember.
Right. It does make, yeah, because it makes you wonder, and you can't revisit it with him or with your mother because they're not here anymore.
Yeah.
Did you ever talk to your sister about it?
No.
She's older or younger?
3 years younger to the day.
Oh, wow.
Same birthday.
So she probably wouldn't remember either.
No.
But she did have it, because she was in the same environment, observing whatever
but we
what
were
was going on.
totally different people.
Right.
I mean, I'm a classic introvert. She's an extrovert. She was a cheerleader and had tons and tons of friends. And
remind me where you grew up?
Washington, D.C.
Right, because your father.
Yeah. And my mother was, I mean, I'm a 5th generation Washingtonian. My mother is from Washington. My father's not. He's from Cleveland.
Okay, so what do you think would have happened if your father taught you how to...
Well, I don't know, and it would change who I am.
But you want to revisit it because you're wondering...
I just wonder why that didn't happen. And what I imagine is my father saying, I offered and you rebuffed me. But I don't know. Though I will say, it allowed me to answer a question I was asked by People magazine about if Michael Kors and I were in a fight, who would win? And I said, Michael. And they asked why. And it wasn't because I didn't know how to fight. I said, because I'm a biter and a hair puller. And Michael doesn't have enough hair for me to pull. Yeah, that was my way of fighting. I'm a biter and a hair puller.
But I'll tell you what's so interesting is that you just told these stories about how you stood up to Harvey Weinstein of all people. So somehow you learned how to fight.
Well,
not physically.
It's the moral and ethical code of what's right. What's the right thing to do here?
So that you think that was that a strong thing with your parents?
Yes, I will say it was. Oh, most definitely. Yeah. I still have this palpable moment as a really little kid. Halloween was approaching. I was in a drugstore with my mother, you know, whatever, not really a drugstore, you know what I mean.
Yeah, like a CVS or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And there was this little package of black and orange miniature pumpkins, black ones and orange ones, and I was captivated. It was a penny, and I really, really wanted it. And my mother said no. Well, I stole it. And that night, I went to my parents' room late, sobbing with it, saying, look what I did. This is really bad. And my mother said, we'll go back to the store tomorrow and we'll meet with the manager and you will return it. And we did. And I've never gotten over that. You correct a wrong.
You correct wrong. So not only do you not do wrong, but if you do, you correct it.
You correct it. So it wasn't a matter of, oh, it's only a penny.
Right.
You know, whatever. Don't do it again.
No, but that's what, that little lesson lives with you. And
it did.
Yeah, it's a big shaper of your life.
Yeah.
Or your moral code as a human, as an adult.
You don't do these things, and if you do, you correct them.
So I have a little similar story. It's not as vivid as yours, but I was young. My son Charlie is the only person who I've ever confessed this to. Now I'm confessing it to you and everybody.
I'm hugely flattered.
It's not that big of a story. It's not that interesting. However, I was a kid somewhere with my mom. We're shopping somewhere, and I saw these little like erasers or something they were colorful. So I guess color attracts a child. And I was like, oh, these are the greatest erasers. And I think my mom said, no, we're not going to get those. And I did the same thing you did. I stole them somehow. I don't remember how. And then of course I talked to my mom about it. I must have confessed to her, although I'm assuming that I'm as good a soul as you are by saying I confessed to her. I don't actually remember confessing to her, but we did talk about it, and she did bring me back to the store the next day.
You talked to her about it.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So
no, it's the
powerful.
same story.
But to me, right versus wrong is very clear.
Yeah.
I think parents are the ones who instill that.
They are.
Right versus wrong, you just know. And if you don't do right, you feel terrible.
Yeah. You know, can I also say, and we may have talked about this before, but you're triggering something in me about working hard. I was a competitive swimmer as a kid, and I loved it. And I always wanted a ribbon. And there's 6 lanes in competitive swimming, at least when I was a kid. And there are 3 people who don't get anything, and then there's first, second, and third.
Okay.
And I was one of the 3 who never got anything for a long time. But I went to practice dutifully, and I worked hard and worked hard and worked hard. And one day, one Saturday meet, I came in 3rd. And it was, I mean, I still remember it. I was probably 8 or 9. It was the most enthralling, uplifting, fantastic moment ever. And I knew why it happened. It happened because I worked so hard. It didn't happen because someone gave it to me as a gift. It didn't happen because other people dropped out. It happened because I earned it. And later I came in 2nd, and later I came in 1st, and it propels you forward in the most powerful and profound way. So all this stuff about how, oh, everybody needs a medal, everyone should win, oh, it makes me forlorn, because it takes away the lesson of how important it is to work hard.
Yeah, totally. Similarly, I'll bring you a story, which was I was cleaning out old files and whatnot recently, and I came across this file box that I have when I wanted to write a book, which you've written books, but I have never published a book. But that's how I got to writing, by the way, because I was a therapist. I'm like, oh, I want to write a self-help book. And so I researched how to propose a self-help book, how to write a proposal, how to pitch literary agents.
And boy, is it hard.
Yeah, it was hard. So
yeah.
So basically what happened was I pitched a bunch of agents. I looked up like, well, who are the agents who would write this kind of book, self-help, and I learned that you send like a cover letter, a sample chapter, and a proposal if it's for nonfiction, a self-help. So I sent this out to a bunch of agents. The bottom line is I got mostly no response from people, but the responses I got were mainly, you have no platform, you've never been published, you're a therapist, so come back to us when you're published. So
I'm trying to get published.
Exactly. So it's that like, well, what? The chicken or the egg. Anyway, that is why I started writing for newspapers and magazines.
Which you do superbly.
So I'm grateful for that. It was a low, and it brought me to the path that I'm on now, which I love so much more, so it all worked out fine. But I was just going through this old file box, and I see a folder with rejection letter, rejection letter, rejection letter, rejection letter. It was a pile of like this thick of rejection letters, but you feel bad for me, but I felt bad then. But when I look at it now, I'm proud. Yeah. I'm like, look at me. I got all these rejection letters.
And look at me now.
So why? But it's really that? Yes. And also, I kept going. Like, I believed in myself in some way enough to send all of these people these proposals. And yes, they rejected me, but it led to something better, and it just shows me like, okay, I can do things and even get rejected at them, but it's still gonna lead to something good, and it's still thick skin. It's called building a thick skin.
I think it's more than that. I think it's also about self-confidence.
Okay.
Really believing in yourself and what you have to say and what you have to offer. And okay, they didn't like it, but that doesn't discredit it.
Right, right.
makes it just as valuable. I mean, it's still valuable.
Yeah. And not everything, all the people who are successful, not all of them, but so many of them were rejected over and over and over again. There's stories about everything. Shakespeare, I think, and Steven Spielberg, all of them. And it's so great because they just keep going because they have to do it.
They have to do it. Yeah. And they believe in the voice that they have. But as you say, I think probably the most important thing is they have to do it.
Yeah. So I had to do it, and I'm glad I did all the work. I'm glad I had that experience because it also just built me up a little bit more. Even the rejection builds you up. So the negative things in life,
and if the rejection is enough to derail you, it shouldn't have happened to begin with. I mean, sending off the manuscript shouldn't have happened to begin with. Yeah, so all good stories. We have to be weebles. If we start to fall over, we have to bounce right back up.
Okay, I love Weeble Wobbles. Is that what you're talking about? Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down?
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. And I would say this to my students all the time. You know, if that bad critique's going to cause you to run out of the building screaming and crying, get out of this industry.
Get out of the industry.
Yeah, it's not for you.
Yeah, so your childhood has totally helped you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's formed me who I am.
Yeah, totally formed who you are. But then you could just continue it yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me get back to,
We've taken a very elliptical path, haven't we?
That's what we do, but that's
what we do.
I love it. So I'm going with, this can be a whole separate interview, but let's just, meaning like a regular size interview. But let me circle back just for the update and say, how have you evolved or changed since we first started talking, just personally, on a personal level? And what are you still working on?
Well, I think I've evolved as we all evolve. I don't think anybody's stagnant in who they are. I don't like continually bringing up the pandemic, but for me, it brought me back to proclivities that I had in childhood, really liking my own company and being perfectly content with being alone, and never being bored by anything, having plenty to do, and the pandemic in a way validated all that. It didn't make me feel, I shouldn't be doing this because I didn't have a choice. I have to do this. Right. We're all sequestered. And I'm probably one of the few people who really enjoyed it. Fine, I love seclusion. I mean, when people talk about the perils of solitary confinement, bring it on. Happy to be solitarily confined. Don't put me in a group cell. And in terms of what I'm working on, I mean, I always have things I'm working on. Thanks to Sarah Ray, some new show ideas. We're always evolving, making the cut and talking about what can happen with it. And I have to say this too, I have no assumptions about a season 4. If it happens, fantastic. And if it doesn't, how lucky are we to have had 3? 3 wonderful, incredible seasons. So I spend a lot of time just being grateful for what I have and what I've been able to achieve and do. And when people ask me, well, what have you done that you really want to do? I say it would be like throwing hubris in the face of angry God. It really would be. I mean, I should be struck by lightning if I were to say, oh, this is what I really like to do. No, I'm so incredibly lucky.
And the world is lucky. The world is lucky.
You're enormously kind and generous. Thank you.
Speaking the truth only. All right, Tim, thank you for the update.
I love you so much.
And I feel the same about you. Such a special human being, really.
Well, it takes 2 of us.
It takes 2.
Hi, this is Tim Gunn, and there is no better partner in the world, there's no better therapist in the world, there's no better soulmate in the world than Kara. She is sublime, she is truly my soulmate, and I wish everyone out there were lucky enough to interact with her for just a nanosecond. And I get hours. Nothing's better.
Love you, Tim. Thank you. All right, so here I am about to meet my friend Tim Gunn. And of course, I have my bag because I'm going to take a little interview. But what is this? This is a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc. Tim does not like to get gifts, but I thought, it's not a gift. It's just something to drink. So I'm bringing him the wine. And of course I was like, what do I want to wear today? It's Tim. I want to wear something fun, something stylish. So I was between a DVF wrap dress, classic, colorful, and this pink dress. So I decided for the pink because it's 90 degrees today in New York City, even though it's only spring. But yeah, the DVF dress was a long sleeve dress. But I'll have to pull that out soon for another occasion.